Is it worth getting on board like some of these tools now, even though they're going to be outdated soon or like die?
The honest answer is I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen with AI. And
you've got a very unique point of view. You're probably seeing into the future more than most. What do you think that we're not talking about enough of?
If your competitor is using AI and you're not using AI, right, that does not put you in a really good spot.
How are you meant to like understand which one to clip your wagon to and to make work?
Well, our goal is to...
I mean, it's a totally different business. Your marketing machine all of a sudden doesn't have to generate 100 leads, it has to generate 10 leads.
I think we did not even ourselves appreciate how much of a change that creates in people's businesses.
What's on the horizon for you guys?
I think the secret is...
Welcome everybody, Owen here for another episode of the Builders Ladder podcast. I'm joined by Dmitry. Dude, fantastic to have you on the line here today. Do you mind giving everybody a little bit of a bio? Who are you? What do you do? And how do you help them?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Huge honor to be on this podcast, by the way. I've been a big fan of the Professional Builder for a while. So it really feels like I finally made it. My name is Dmitry. Dmitry Alexin. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Handoff. Handoff is an AI assistant for residential contractors that helps them with automating their back office, anything from cost estimating to project management to dealing with sales and marketing and their finances. Handoff can essentially organize and systematize and automate using the software that we provide, but also the AI technology that powers that software.
Yeah, so good. So it's going to save people a boatload of time in almost every aspect of their business. But primarily, where would the most common use case be?
Yeah, and I think you and I were just talking about this, right before we kind of started rolling the camera, is what is what is happening in AI right now is that these AI models have started to reach this level where you can actually delegate work to what they call agents, right? You can essentially speak with one of these agents, these AI models, like these chat models, like ChatGPT, right, is a really good example. But ChatGPT doesn't connect to your software, doesn't connect to your tools. In our case, something that is very popular is contractors essentially get access to our product as kind of like an office assistant, as executive assistant, and then they delegate things like creating a cost estimate, or let's say taking that cost estimate and then converting that into a proposal, or developing a payment schedule, or sending invoices, or updating information in their CRM. All of these manual tasks that take you a lot of time to do otherwise. You just speak to Handoff and you say, hey, here's a project that I've done, that I'm working on. I need you to create a cost estimate for me. And also, by the way, generate a scope of work, and also, create a professional email that I can send to my client, updating them, about, what we discussed, in the meeting today. So all of these things is, kind of just like all this work you can delegate to this AI agent that then essentially performs this menial, complicated, important tasks for your business, but just things that take a lot of time. And when you're a residential construction company, those are the types of things that you just do not have the time for.
Oh, dude, or you're not interested in doing either. Like, I know that I put off so much of my admin. I'm like, I delegate half of it, and then there's some stuff that I'm like, I'll ping that off, or I'll do this thing, and I procrastinate. I just do not get to it. Handoff is going to be such a game changer for so many people once they sort of use it correctly and get up and running with it.
Yeah, it's something that you always hear from contractors, right? The mantra, and I think that's what you guys also say in the seminars, is you want to be working on your business, not in your business, right? And so when you are working in your business, a lot of what your time gets wasted on is all of these, organizational, back office, administrative tasks that you have to do. And there are software products out there that allow you to kind of organize that information. They're like file cabinet software products and, the construction management tools. Like a lot of contractors started to get them. But the problem is you get one of these tools and it's still just a file cabinet. You still have to put you have to write the files, put the files in, make sure the files are in the right place. And either you do that yourself as an owner of that construction business, but you're trying to scale to millions of dollars, and organizing your file cabinet is not exactly top of your priorities. And
No.
another thing you can do is you can go ahead and then hire somebody, or look for somebody to do that work for you. But that comes with costs. It comes with a lot of risks. And even if you do hire somebody, still you don't want them doing these sort of things that are pretty, I would say not as complicated. Maybe you want them to be dealing more with your clients, maybe being the front
Yeah.
office, right? Representing your brand, even if they're an, an admin assistant. And then all of these other tasks that get handed off to either that person, or you spend nights and weekends doing, even with that software in place, you still have to do yourself.
Totally,
So what we
100%.
do,
It's finding those low dollar repeating and recurring tasks and starting with those. So like for example, I mean it's the change of the month right now, or at least it is for us as we're recording this podcast. And it's like therefore change of the month, there is a full reconciliation of the accounts, making sure we get our financial reports in place and making sure that we actually sit down and review them. Now, getting the data together is reasonably table stakes. It repeats, it recurs, it's reasonably low dollar versus inspecting the data, finding the outcome, and actually having the discipline to sit down and review it as a leadership team every single month. Like that's where the value is. And you should be definitely doing that part and trying to automate and get accurate, obviously, but automate and make as easy as possible the actual reconciliation, the accounts, and getting the stuff together, sort of thing. So, I totally agree. I want to take a couple of steps back first because this stuff's moving quick, right? Like we hung out in Austin at this, I think it was the State Line barbecue joint. Back then, that would have been maybe 6, 9 months ago now. And there's so much change that's gone on. Like internally here at the Professional Builder, we've gone from like, oh yeah, AI to like, oh, Chatty G, use Chatty G to no, like let's use some of these other tools and build some agents that do some stuff on a recurring basis, or like custom GPTs within Chat GPT to do certain tasks. Like for example, we automate the lookbook process now and other things like that for our members. But I'm curious, like it's moving quick. Is it worth getting on board some of these some of these tools now, even though they're going to be outdated soon or like die? Like because I remember 10 years ago when everyone was getting into like project management software, it was like you had Co-Construct, Builder Trend, and then all of a sudden Co-Construct was bought by Builder Trend, and this software doesn't exist anymore. And then you set up your business on this platform for it to kind of not exist 6 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 projects, 8 projects later. Like, how can you read the room? How are you meant to like understand how, like where, like which one to clip your wagon to and to make work? Like, what do you think about that whole thing? I'm curious.
definitely. I think, I mean, the honest answer is I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen with AI and where it's moving. And people are talking about, how smart can it really get? I think 2 years ago, it was just something that was just brand new and not really familiar to folks. I think a year ago, it was still maybe questionable, is AI going to stick around? Is it just a fad? And I think over the last few months, it really became apparent that this is here to stay. This is how we're going to do things in the future, and we just have to find ways to benefit from this.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I think for small business owners, AI is just godsend because it
Mm.
is so hard to run your business otherwise, without that additional help. Now, I think specifically to your question, I think if you go for these tools that are more well known, on one hand, like ChatGPT, of course, Claude is another one that is getting popular.
Mm.
I don't think that they're going anywhere. In fact, I think they're just going to continue to get better and better, right? On the other hand, I think while you're adopting an AI tool, I think you got to consider the business risk, right? Of like continuity risk of a certain product.
Mhm.
And you want to make sure that you go with a company that has been around long enough and that is specific to, like, let's say, a given industry. I
Yes.
think it's that missing middle is like kind of where I think a lot of risk lies. But I think if you're going with it for an AI specific to construction, and you do your research, you look at reviews, you speak to others as well in the industry to get their take. I think it's probably a reasonable bet to make.
Yeah, yeah. I think that piece about it being like really specific to our industry is super important because you can get these things and they're quite generic, and it's kind of like, you use them and they give a very generic answer, or they do a very generic sort of, solution, and it's not actually any better than maybe finding, the old school way of doing it, like building a system and hiring a person. But to your point, when you can find it for a really specific part of our problem, then like it's game changing. So good. I want to go back again, even further this time. Like, why did you sort of choose to found Handoff? Because like, you've been at this for a while in terms of AI. You're like one of the first AI companies almost in the space sort of thing in construction. Like, it's not like you came down in the last rain shower. You've been doing this for a while and you got a huge background in previous tech and things like that. Do you mind just walking us through kind of like some of the timeline and reasons that you started and wanted to tackle this problem? Because I think that's really
Yeah, I
interesting.
guess I guess we're like the OGs now. That's true. Even though I think we're still, still obviously a
Definitely.
lots to work on. But
Yeah.
I think the reason why we did it is exactly, what you and I just talked about, right? So I'm a machine learning engineer, but I used to work in real estate and construction, and I saw that there are these AI models out there that are getting good, but they're just not optimized for construction. Like they do not speak contractor, right? So to speak. And they kind of do not connect well to construction pricing, construction data. And really, we started the company about 6 years ago, right? So quite some time, way before ChatGPT.
Mm.
And we had that insight that like contractors would benefit from AI. And the reason why we had that insight is it's a very, I guess, like short but kind of a funny story is I was working for this technology real estate company that was buying these buildings to create essentially hubs for food delivery. That was kind of the whole business model. It was actually started by the guy who started Uber, like the ride-hailing app. And so I was assisting them with sort of how do we, buy and build out these properties. And at some point, I, wanted to do a cost estimate. And so I was like, there's probably some data that I can use to reference, with something cost and construction. And then I spoke with our team, and they gave me a book, this book called RS Means. And I was like, wait a second. So you're saying that this is a physical book, and it had on it like a year that was published on. It was like, I think it was like 2018 or something like that. And I was like, wait a second. So they published it for the whole of 2018. And then they published it like, in the prior years, they're trying to predict what things are going to cost. They publish it in a book, and so you have to go and use this book to sort of estimate your costs. And that, that's how, they I think did things there at least. They're like, yeah, that's just what the industry is using. And so that was just such a mind-blowing discovery for me because our estimates were, very inaccurate. Like when we were like as a real estate company, we tried to do, and we had our own GC component, our own GC arm. Our estimates were off, by hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars. We couldn't really understand why. And then, because the data that we were using was not really reliable. And when we got bids from subs, also, like they were all over the place, right? It just, there was no reason for why this bid is like 40% higher than this other bid. And so we started decomposing it, and we found like the crux of the problem is the quality of your cost estimate. But the good news, if you have good data, if you have good AI training, AI logic, you can produce really high quality estimates. And then
Mm.
when you have a high quality estimate, there's all kinds of things you can do that improve the rest of this project workflow. And so that was the insight. And we just really focused hardcore on that specific problem. So over the last 6 years, we've been on this journey to automate cost estimating that kind of led to creating this more comprehensive end-to-end AI-based construction management product that Handoff is today.
It's so good. What are some of like the insights that have been interesting to learn? Like, one of them's obviously oh, this is all in a book. Okay, well, there's opportunity here to change this. But as you've built Handoff, what have been some of the other interesting insights that you've learned? Like, I know for us here at the Professional Builder, every quite a lot of our members join because they're like, I want leads. And then you realize that they don't want leads. They actually need better profitability, right? And then they kind of go, yeah, systems, baby. Give me the systems. And then you realize like they don't know what those systems are. And you got to chunk that down into like a sales system or an estimating system or a variations and change order system and things like that. So like one of the insights that we've had is that generally speaking, most people will put their hand up and say that they want marketing when actually they want profit, or they need profit, sort of thing. So what have been some of the insights that you've learned or seen at Handoff?
Yeah, a couple come to mind. So first is, I think as we started to speed up the process of cost estimating, you can go to Handoff, you can explain your project within a couple of minutes to get a full estimate. We did not realize how much the speed to bid really matters. I think what we discovered, and we did not realize customers would actually do that, is they take kind of with them to the job site or to meet the client. They walk the site. You can record all of the information about the site into Handoff. And then they go back to their trucks and then they complete the estimate on site, go back to the client, and then have them essentially present the estimate right there and then. And then they discover that essentially, if you are the first one to do that, you can really lock in the relationship early on. And so that allows you to just close that many more deals. I think as much as 2x, close rate that we've seen due to a much faster time to bid. And so when you have a much higher win rate, you actually don't need as many leads, right? And in fact, you can be more selective, right? Now that you know that you can close that many more deals, you can raise your prices, right? Because you're not competing to the lowest denominator bid that came through. You set your own price, right? And if you already proceeded to signing a contract because you gave a good experience, your profitability goes up. You can be more selective. You can pick the jobs that you really like to work on, the clients that you really like to work with. So that initial like jumping point makes a huge difference. And I think we did not even ourselves appreciate how much of a change that creates in people's businesses.
That's so good. Yeah, you see it all the time. So like our members will conduct what's called a preliminary service agreement, or charging for quotes, or they might call it something cute like a dreams to reality package. But basically, like for us to site visit, walk away, pull together the estimate, present it back in person, down booklet, inclusions, exclusions, all that sort of stuff. Paying for that fee, whether it's $20, $200, or $2,000 or $20,000, it's not really about the dollar figure. It's about the commitment piece of them opening their wallet. Because anytime somebody like signs a form or opens their wallet, they're like closing a buying loop in their brain. They're going like, oh, I've kind of like purchased from Dmitry, right? I'm not really on the information search phase. I'm not really on the hunt for a contractor or a builder any longer. I've like found my guy or my gal, even though they've just signed a piece of paper that's like says you'll give us the opportunity to present the quote in person, or yes, I'll pay $80 for my bid, sort of thing. Like it doesn't matter. That is almost like a high jump mark. If you got no leads, you might charge $100. And if you got drowning in leads, you might charge $80,000, sort of thing. It's like a high jump piece and a positioning piece. But yeah, we see this something very similar. As soon as somebody signs something or opens their wallet, the close rate goes through the roof as well. I don't have the data in front of me to know whether it's 2 times more, but it's significantly more. Like I got case studies in certain pockets where it's like, goes from 30% close rate to 60% close rate, goes from 15 to 55 and things like that. And you're just like, I mean, it's a totally different business. Your marketing machine all of a sudden doesn't have to generate 100 leads. It has to generate 10 leads a year. And it's like game changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that initial commitment, like a small commitment, like you said, doesn't have to be a lot, but just
No.
charging for the bid, right? It puts you in a much stronger position to then continue the relationship. And I think in order to do this in a believable way for the client, like you can't just like scribble a number on a napkin and just be like, I'm gonna give you this number now. I'm gonna give you this napkin, but you gotta pay me for it. It's
Yeah.
not as convincing. And I like that you guys kind of have this awesome set of like templates and examples for what a professional presentation looks like. And like I know that some of your clients really get creative with it. But if you want to do that well professionally, like it takes time to put it together. So what we're trying to do is like your bid that you get with Handoff is very detailed. It can be line by line down to like the studs and nails. And so that information, when you present it in this level of detail to the client and you pair it up with like a beautiful presentation, right, that kind of, can accompany your portfolio of projects, that level of detail shows the professionalism. It shows that you've done the work, right? And you can pair it up with the rest of your kind of brand presentation, and you can go ahead and charge $1,000 for this bid, right? Or whatever you feel like is the right price. And that
Yeah.
definitely would lock in that relationship early on. So if you're professional, you're detailed, you do it quick, right? Ideally, you're the first, right? And you lock in that first commitment, like you are like there's very little chances that you're not really getting, the rest of this job. Maybe homeowner realize they don't have the budget for it. But even then,
Yeah.
there's ways to work around that, right? With a credit, sort of like consumer credit options. So that's a really
100%.
good point.
Yeah, or you reduce the scope of works and you just negotiate with them on like, hey, we can increase the budget, we can reduce the scope of works. It's up to you. Or and if you're still having problems, it's probably a you thing, and you need to look at yourself. Work out if you need to get some better sales skills or bedside manner. Maybe brush your teeth next time, sort of thing. Tell me more, like what's on the horizon for you guys? Because you've got an exciting product. It's an exciting time in construction. A lot of people picking up AI, picking up other software and stuff. Like, we're loving working with our members on some of the growth opportunities that they've got. And what are some of your guys' growth opportunities? What's your targets? What are your ambitions for Handoff?
Yeah, definitely. Well, our goal is to help our customers to build successful businesses, right? That's the end game. So if you're a contractor, you're trying to grow your company from 200,000 to 600,000, or from 600,000 to 2 million, right? There are just things you need to scale along the way.
Mhm.
Estimating is of course one of them, which has been our core focus. There's all this other stuff like I talked about, like proposals, invoices, project management, daily logs. So the way that we are building our product is essentially, you can think of it as like a single agent or a team of sort of co-working, agents that perform these tasks for you. So ideally, we want you to be able to, have a core team, in your construction company, your project managers, your sales folks, and then really empower them with this automation that allows you to, take care of all these other tasks that, take place. So think of it as like a maybe next evolution in this construction management platform era. In the past, as I said, this filing cabinet, it exists. I think you mentioned Buildertrend is a good example of that kind of software. But now we kind of give you all of the virtual, call it labor, right? This AI assistant labor to be like managing, maintaining, putting the right things in the file cabinet, creating your estimates, dealing with your invoices, making sure that your customers are taken care of. So you can go and build the business, be on top of the business, and actually, like make sure that you deliver, these killer spaces for your clients.
So good. Love it. Love it so much. Awesome. So what do you think is stuff that, doesn't get discussed enough? Because like the cool good news is like we're actually all hanging out in Austin in a couple of weeks for the summer for all of our members and some guests. It's gonna be great. But tell us, like, what should we be discussing at the summit? What are some of the top conversations or topics that don't get discussed enough that people need to be made aware of, or we should be talking about when we all catch up?
Within, I guess, the scope of AI, or just like more broadly, like what are you
Yeah,
thinking
I'm
here?
interested in AI, but maybe more broadly as well. Like, like for me, the big one is, like people aren't spending enough time on talent, like marketing for talent. They market for their business and for projects, but most people run up against kind of like a roadblock when it comes to, you know, talent, like finding good subs, finding good superintendents, finding good managers, finding good people in the office, finding good estimators and stuff. And like, yes, software can supplement and mean that we don't need 25 people, we only need 5 people. But I think being a talent magnet is like massively overlooked and underworked on in our industry. And those that do it well, and I've got a couple of case studies of members that do it well, are absolutely in the driver's seat over the next 24, 36 months, depending on what market you're in, where you just like you can see these labor crunches coming, sort of thing. That's something that I don't think we talk enough about. But from your point of view, you've got a very unique point of view. You're probably seeing into the future more than most. Like, what do you think that we're not talking about enough of?
Yeah, I would say maybe two things come to mind, one more AI specific and one more broadly. On the AI point, I think that it is just, I think in a place where these models have gotten really smart. And I don't know if we're gonna, quite have the Skynet anytime soon, hopefully not, but it definitely can help you, put together, like a scope of work for your client, right, with the right inputs. And I think that testing them and starting with ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, like pick, whatever you like. They're all, you can start for free. You can all start, Handoff for free as well. Just get familiar with it. Like, it doesn't matter you've been, in construction for the last, 40 years or the last, 4 months. Just I think getting an understanding how this can be helpful to your company is just going to already maybe set you apart from others, in the market. And the thing is, the secret is, not so much a secret, perhaps everybody's already using it. So like, if your competitor is using AI and you're not using AI, right, that does not put you in a really good spot, right? So you should at least give it a shot and see, what it looks like. And it probably is easier than you think.
Yeah.
I would say that's in the AI part and kind of like becoming more of a fact. On the broad, spectrum, what I'm discovering is I work with contractors and I see contractors that, especially like in a general contracting space, that distinguish themselves. Something I did not realize is the quality not only of your own team, but the quality of your vendors. And let me give you a few examples, right? When you work with a design build firm, like of course everything is on one roof, but a typical contractor does not have all those pieces in place yet. And so, maybe you're doing a remodel or a new home build, you need an architect, you need a designer. And so what's interesting is that, if you are kind of starting to connect those vendors for your client, because a homeowner comes to you, odds are, they don't have, designer in place, they don't have an architect in place, just trying to figure out what to do with their build. If you give them those, vendors that kind of co-work with you, that you've done projects with in the past, that really distinguishes, I think, your company, because even if they're not a part of your firm, but you collaborate with them and they're very talented and you're very talented, that kind of becomes a multiplier. But if you are talented and you connect them to an architect that is incompetent, you put them, in touch with a designer who doesn't understand what they're talking about or doesn't listen to the client, that makes you look worse, right? So it's kind of a weird effect, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you surround yourself with these talented, high quality vendors,
Totally.
the same way as it is with your employees, that multiplies your standing in the eyes of your client, and then the vice versa also applies. Or the client might be like, "Ooh, I don't know if this builder is the right thing for me anymore."
Yeah, yeah, because you don't trust the judgment, right? Like it's kind of like the flatmate that leaves the cap off the toothpaste, and all of a sudden they do the smallest thing. You're like, oh, fuck, that guy's an idiot. Like,
That's
oh, this
right.
sucks. But it's true because trust is transferable and it's accumulative. And kind of we say that a lot when it comes to like case studies and testimonials. Like, cool story, you've got two or three. Not as good as having 7 or 8, 9 or 10, because the trust accumulates up, right? Same with it being transferable. If I say, hey, welcome to me and my team, John, Craig, Simon, and Paul, versus me and my team, John, Craig, Simon, and Paul, plus our preferred partners and our trusted suppliers. And it's their logos there. And maybe I've never heard of your brand, XYZ Builders, but I have heard of Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever the partner or trusted local supplier is. Maybe I've seen the electrician that you work with driving around town for the last 20 years. It's a family-run business, right? And I've got a lot of credibility and trust associated with them because my children play soccer with their children, right? So the ability to build out and transfer some of that trust across your network is, I completely agree. It's very, very big and has a huge multiplying effect as well. Very good point. So good. I know we're over time, but I have an interesting selfish question. What AIs, other than Handoff, do you use? What are you using on like a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Because call me a basic person, but I go double click on the right or hold down and it opens up Chatty G for me that I can talk into and do my stuff. And then I've got Claude, and then we use Manus for doing some other copywriting stuff and some agentic stuff. But I'm curious, what do you use and how do you use it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, other than Handoff, and I do use Handoff for a lot of day-to-day tasks as well. But other than Handoff, I've been a huge fan of ChatGPT for a while, but I did more lately switch to Claude, and Claude has this new feature that I think is really cool. There's a couple of these new features. Well, and there's like a lot of their stuff is sort of centered around coding and engineering, but they released this new thing called Claude Cowork. And I think it's really cool. It's like kind of, I think that, back to that agent idea, like you basically can like give it access to a folder and you can say, hey, can you like read what's in this folder, read the documents that are in this folder. And based on what you read there, based on what you saw, prepare something else. Maybe you're doing like a remediation report or something, or maybe you're putting together, a scope of work summary, right? So it's kind of cool because you can analyze this information and, throw it together. Now, Claude still has this problem. It doesn't quite speak contractor, right? It doesn't quite understand all the construction nuances. But I would say maybe if it's not as, if it's something more complicated, I would recommend, Handoff at the end of the day, but something more basic like marketing copy, right? Maybe it's, your website, information, and writing an email. Claude has a really good job at doing this, and with this co-work feature, it kind of like they're trying to kind of position this as like this assistant that kind of reads your files, understand what you do, understand, try to understand like what you prefer. And I think it's worthwhile giving it a try. It's very new. It's still, I would say, in called beta. So it is available in the app already. You can definitely try it, just install it on your computer. But I thought it's cool. It browses the internet as well, and it's kind of like it's kind of like in this phase with like it's becoming a coworker of yours that can do actual work, not just write a poem like what I think everybody tried with ChatGPT, like write a poem about something. Like we're kind of in the next
Yeah.
phase now.
Yeah, you are Eminem and you are best friends with Owen. Write a cool rap for like and
I
go
probably
Chatty
type
Chat.
except probably this exact prompt at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And Nano Banana as well. I spent like like a whole embarrassingly long Sunday afternoon being like, oh my gosh, now Owen as a cowboy riding off on a surfboard and just like dumb shit for hours doing Nano Banana. That was fun though. I enjoyed that. But yeah, there's
Yeah,
lots of
Nano
lots of
Banana.
good apps.
Nano
Yeah.
Banana is cool. I mean, yeah, people are going pretty well with it now. Like you can do art, there's a coworker of mine here at Handoff who's like doing actual art with Nano Banana and like sells it.
Wow.
So it is crazy. I mean, it came so suddenly. I think everything that is happening in AI, I think we're still learning how to live with it, right? Maybe just to get a
Yeah.
little philosophical. It is just a new fact of, what technology can do. And I don't think we quite sort of grasped all of it yet. And it's also because every day it's changing. Like they're releasing a new model every day. There's another AI update. And it's like keeping up with that is quite tricky. But what I've seen, I guess, bottom line is it's been all good. Like that's I mean, of course, there's been, I think, AI, slop and just bots on Twitter, but it's more, mainly has been very productive and very helpful. And I think that just makes me very optimistic. So maybe another way to answer your question. I think all of these AI tools have something interesting about them. Try as many as you can, I guess, just to kind of understand, find your favorite, style, coworker style, and just stick with that.
Cool. So good. Well, Dimitri, fantastic to hang out with you. We're going to be hanging out again at the Builders Summit in just a couple of weeks. Make sure that you are checking that out. It's going to be in Austin, and you're going to be there. Some of your team coming along as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you in Austin. We're also going to be at the International Builder Show
Yeah.
in Orlando in a couple of weeks. We actually have a workshop on using AI in
Nice.
construction. So drop by the workshop to learn more about sort of all kinds of things you can do with AI. You can also stop by our booth. I'll be there myself. And then outside of that, excited to see everybody else in Austin.
Yeah, so good. Awesome. Well, come and say hi to us all at International Builder Show and come and let us know if you come along to Austin. Can't wait to see you, dude. Have a good one. Fantastic hanging out again. Thank you very much for your time. Is there anywhere else people can find you or get in touch if they want to learn more?
Yeah, check us out at Handoff.ai, or just type, Handoff.ai in your favorite chatbot tool or in your Google search.
Yeah.
And you can learn all about us. It's a free to start, free trial. You can do your first estimates. A lot of our customers have did their estimate and Handoff, submitted that as a bid, won a job, and sometimes quite large jobs and tens of thousands of dollars or more. And then they took that money and then they ended up subscribing to Handoff as a result. So give it
Good.
a shot.
It's a pretty worthwhile reason to invest, I would say. So very good. Thank you so much again, dude. Been excellent. You're the man.